Hi, this is Jenny Fernandez. I am a leadership coach, as chief marketing officer, and a professor at Columbia University and New York University. I have the pleasure to be here today with Tameka Green. She is the global head of belonging, inclusion, and culture at Chegg. She's also a chief member and TEDx speaker. So welcome, Tameka.
Thank you for having me, Jenny. Nice to see you today.
Thank you. If you don't mind, please take a few minutes and really truly introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure, happy to. My name's Tameka Green. As Jenny said, I'm the Global Head of Culture, Belonging, and Inclusion at Chegg, otherwise known as Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I've been a diversity, equity, and inclusion practitioner for about 17 years and have really been focusing on helping organizations make their workplaces inclusive, welcoming, and equitable for all employees. So I'm delighted to speak with you all today about leadership and its impact on our workforce and our culture.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It is such a pivotal moment, I think, for leadership. So very, very relevant. So one of the questions that I have, especially looking at your responsibilities and your background, is really the impact of collaboration. So I would love to understand, how has collaboration made you a more impactful leader?
It's a great question. I think that fostering collaboration is really important because you want your team members to feel valued and connected and motivated to work together towards your common goals or your organizational goals. So I believe it's very important from the very beginning of a team relationship to set the example of what collaboration looks like. Whenever I join a team or have begun to be a leader of the team, at the very first meeting, I establish what I think are rules of engagement on the team, which is to foster an environment that breeds collaboration. So from the very moment, from the very beginning, setting the tone of what you'd like the culture of your team to be. I think it's also important to establish clear goals and objectives from the very beginning to make sure that every team member understands these goals and how their contributions are vital to achieving them. And then finally, fostering collaboration is all about building trust. Trust is the foundation, in my opinion, of collaboration because it encourages open communication,
Yes.
honesty, and transparency. But it also creates opportunities for team members to really connect with each other and build relationships beyond those work-related activities. So fostering collaboration is very important from the very beginning when you're putting together a team, and it really helps to make some positive business outcomes.
Thank you. No, thank you, Tameka. That's really a lot of great points. I really gravitated to what you said in terms of the key in those transition moments. So when you're going into a new role, going into a new company, where you're really trying to establish the culture for your team or the organization, those transition moments or onboarding moments are so pivotal because you truly are showing up as the leader that you want to be and how you want others to follow. So I think it's really great because as then you really establish the ways of working, the team norms, and as you called it, the rules of engagement, right? In terms of what the team needs to do and how effective they're going to be, because I truly see collaboration as a way to increase the impact of what you're doing. And actually, I just wrote an article in Harvard Business Review that talks about how to become more collaborative, especially in moments when you feel like being territorial. So, right, because then, unfortunately, sometimes that's our impulse, but then we're doing a disservice to ourselves and the organization because we could do so much more if we work closely together.
Exactly, exactly. It's all about all of us working together to meet a common goal and making sure that everyone has a role to play
Yes.
in that capacity. So I think that will also help to foster that collaboration instead of being territorial, is that all of us are working together, heading in the right direction.
Fantastic, right? Yeah, everybody rowing in the right direction. So that's
Going
great.
in the same direction. Exactly, exactly.
No, that's great. Thank you. Another question that came to mind really for me was basically about relationships. Building
Mm.
professional relationships is such a key part of being a leader. So, what is your approach for yourself and your team and the organization as you look to create meaningful, meaningful connections with team members, with colleagues, with stakeholders?
Really, I think one of the main things that's important in building relationships with others is to be authentic. I
Yeah.
really think when you hear the phrase, be your true self, or be your authentic self, or bringing 100% of yourself into the workplace as much as you can, I think that that's really the beginning of being able to build meaningful relationships with others, being able to build an emotional connection with your colleagues and your counterparts, to really give them an opportunity to see who you really are, is, in my opinion, the best way to build relationships from the very beginning. If you are not afraid to be vulnerable, to not be afraid to share your opinions, share your perspective, respectfully, of course.
Yes.
I think that that really helps to break down the invisible wall that some of us may have sometime when we're first meeting people that we don't know, especially those that may not be comfortable or as outgoing as some others may be. But being comfortable with who you are, being comfortable with presenting who you are from the very beginning, I think is really important to be able to build relationships, because you're building rapport, you're building trust, you're being honest, you're being transparent to what we were speaking about a few moments ago. So it's all connected around building those meaningful relationships from the beginning, is just to be authentically you.
No, thank you. Very well said. And actually, if I remember correctly, authentic was a key word of 2023. In a world of, automation and AI kind of, coming in and really creating a lot of generic content, being you and showing your humanity, your human self is something that is going to help us really be remembered, right? And make an impact. And I think as a leader, especially whether we're talking to rising leaders or established leaders like yourself, again, showing that authentic self, being present is something that is key. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that when there's conflict, people are able to separate the problem from the person. It's not that somebody's against you. It's just that we're objectively have different opinions about a business problem. And we can negotiate or get to an agreement so that we can all move forward. I think that's something that really has a lot of room for us to continue to improve, but it's such a key part of leadership. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Great. So, as I mentioned earlier, you're a TEDx speaker, and that's fantastic. We don't see as many, diversity, equity, and inclusion leaders really building their brands. And I think again, it's a great way to lead by example. So I would love to, hear from you about like what is your approach to build and manage your personal brand?
It's a great question. I believe when I saw the question that you sent that over, I was thinking about how my brand has evolved over the last several years. When I was first getting started in my professional career, I think all of us, when you get to a place where you're getting out of college, you're just starting to get started in your career and working in organizations, there is a professional image that is the standard of what you think you should portray in the workplace or what professionalism looks like. And sometimes I think there is a misperception around being professional and what your personal brand or what brand your brand is in the workplace. And I think as I have evolved um professionally and personally, I have really wanted to, again, as I mentioned a few moments ago, really want my brand to be authentically me.
Yes.
I really want to be as true to myself as much as I can, as long as I can, as often as I can. And so my brand has changed from trying to fit this picture of what professionalism looks like to what I want to look like and how I want to show up every day. And I want to show up every day as authentically Tameka as much as I can. So maintaining that brand of authentically Tameka is something that I work on all day, every day. It's remembering what the best version of me looks like in my mind and how I fall into that path every day, whether it's how I wake up in the morning, what I eat for breakfast, what I wear, to how I communicate with others,
Yes.
to how I carry myself, and how I lay my head on my pillow every night before I go to bed. All of those steps throughout the day, I am really focused on how do I show up to be the best version of myself, and how I present myself is really what my personal brand is. So being authentic is important to me, and really remembering who I want to be and how I show up is how I maintain my brand every single day.
Thank you. No, thank you, Tamika. I really like that because what you're talking about is almost like creating an image of your, not only your current self, but that future self. Who is it that you're looking to grow into? And that is kind of your North Star. And you show up in a way that will be true to that future image that you're looking to create. As we all, as leaders, we're looking to create our legacy, to build our reputation. We want to make sure that who we are is showing up authentically and is being remembered by others. Because one of
Exactly.
the challenges that I feel many leaders, especially women or underrepresented minorities like ourselves, is that we may not manage our narrative, but the narrative is there and it's being managed by others. So taking
Exactly.
control and being ahead, I think, is definitely key.
Exactly. And I think that's a large part of it. And you just said a word that has really landed on me recently is legacy. When I think about what I want the latter part of my life to look like, what legacy am I leaving behind? How would people speak about me when I'm long gone? What impact did I have on their life, if any? And I hope that at the end of the day, I hope that the people that I have come in contact with throughout my life have felt positively impacted by the influence that I've had on their life, just being a small presence in their life of maybe positivity, maybe offering some different perspectives. But that's what personal branding to me is about, is being authentically myself and making sure that when others think about me when the day is done,
Yeah.
that they know that I did the very best that I could and I made the world a better place.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's, hey, words to live by. Excuse me. And then I have one last question. So it's been great speaking with you. We have been speaking about, again, who Tameka Green is as a person, as a leader, how you show up and create and foster leadership and culture in your company. And one thing being the beginning of the year 2024 that I wanted to ask you is to look into the future and to think about, predictions. So I would love to, hear from you about how do you think leadership is going to evolve within the next 3 to 5 years, especially with the onset of AI changing, the way we work, live, and play.
That's a great question. I mean, there has been so much that has happened in the world in the last few years that have really transformed how we all relate to each other and how we connect with each other. So I feel like the evolution of leadership is really going to become more empathetic, hopefully, more adaptable. As you mentioned, technologically savvy, and socially responsible, I think. I think, of course, as you just mentioned, technology is going to play a huge role in how leadership is going to be affected in terms of how leaders will be really relying more on technology and data more than ever before in order to inform their decisions, not only on the way that they work and lead with their teams, but also how they produce products and services for their customers and clients. So, of course, technology is going to play a huge role in that. I think also leadership will evolve where there'll be an increased focus on emotional intelligence. You know, as the workplaces have become more diverse and inclusive, it's really becoming very important of having emotional intelligence in leadership. Leaders will really need to be more empathetic and
Yes.
self-aware and capable of managing a wide range of employees from different backgrounds, experiences, and lived experiences. So I think that that's also something that will definitely need to evolve from a leadership perspective. And really aligning with more purpose-driven leadership. I think employees and organizations are really increasing ways to do more work that's more meaningful to them and align with their personal values. And I think leaders will really need to connect organizational goals with individual purpose, which will make workplaces more human centric, I believe. And then resilience. I think COVID-19 and other catastrophes that have happened over the last few years have really made leadership and leaders pay attention to being focused on being skilled in crisis management and helping to build resilience in their organizations. So, in summary, again, I just think leaders will really need to be more empathetic, more agile, more technologically savvy, and more socially responsible because the world is going to be changing more and more and more as time goes on. But really maintaining that strong focus on human-centric values
Yes.
and sustainable practices, I think, is the direction that leadership is headed.
Thank you. No, that's fantastic. I think that the key word that I heard was values. Our values are going to drive not only how we show up ourselves in the workplace and what do we expect from our leaders, but also what do we expect from the organization in terms of being mission driven, purpose driven, in terms of seeing us in our humanity, that we need to feel that we have the autonomy, right? The recognition, the motivation to really perform, I think is going to be more and more needed. I completely agree with you. The focus on emotional intelligence and frankly, how we as leaders start, I think, upskilling and reskilling our teams, because they're going to need a lot of leadership and development in order to kind of navigate the changes that are going to happen extremely fast in the next few years. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that as we continue to evolve, I do think that leaders really need to get closer to their humanity and really give some grace and mercy when necessary, because so much has happened to all of us.
Yes.
Some of us have had different experiences over the last few years, and I think it really would be helpful for all of us as leaders to really get a little bit closer to that and anchor in that and realize that all of us have our own challenges and deal with our own struggles.
Yes.
And if we can just come together on that and really focus on the humanity within each of us, then I think leadership is really centered and focused on making some great strides in the future.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate that. And what you said reminded me of a book. I don't know if you have read The Four Agreements.
Yeah,
One of the agreements, it talks about that our best self, evolves. We're not our best every day. It's not the same every day. So
right.
having leaders show empathy, it's so key for us to feel seen and heard. And that's going to, again, as you mentioned, be the key for us to have a human-centered workforce and organizations. So it's been a pleasure to speak with you today, Tameka. Thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to more conversations. Thanks
Thank,
again.
thank you. It's been a pleasure.